The cream of the crop!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. Big news announced yesterday in the EU, UK. Starmer coming out talking about digital ID, how the UK is going to essentially implement a form of digital ID, and that in order to have a job, in order to move forward with your lifestyle overseas, you're going to have a digital ID. We need to talk about this today because it's very important. It is coming to Canada. And for anybody who says, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, it's not going to happen, people have been saying that for ages when we talked about digital ID. People since the pandemic, in fact, we're going to bring some of those situations up, had been saying, well, it's all just talked about with the WEF. This is all just part of their scheme. It's never going to come to fruition. It's never going to happen. It's here. And the push is being made in Canada. In fact, it is going to go through. And we need to talk about it today because people need to understand that you're about to have everything stripped away from you in this country. I really don't know where we go at this point. I really don't know what we do. Let's just take a look over here. Mark Carney, Stephen Guilbeault are set to retable an internet censorship bill for the third time in 4 years. This piece of legislation received widespread criticism from the Senate and the Trump administration. So Stephen Guilbeault is in charge of what's happening with the censorship bill. And people saying, well, Fringe, this has nothing to do with digital ID. Why are we talking about censorship? This is the beginning. If you follow what happened, again, in the UK, they put in mass censorship laws. They've been arresting citizens for posting memes, people who share their distaste for immigration, for the situation that their country finds themselves in. People like Tommy Robinson are being jailed for organizing protests, for talking about their personal beliefs and opinions, peacefully, by the way. When you compare it to other protests that are happening around the world, especially in countries like Canada, Tommy Robinson and others have been doing peaceful protests. Yet the government is shutting that down. And people are asking, well, where are our rights? Well, in Canada, we have the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It's pretty much been used as toilet paper for the last decade. It's been completely ignored. Now you have Stephen Guilbeault and Mark Carney saying, okay, we need to get the gears working in Canada. We're going to censor platforms. Now, it's not just the announcement of this, because they're ramping it up. If you ever look between the lines, if you watch what the government is doing in the background, you can always tell when they're ramping up for this stuff. Mark Carney making several points to indicate that Canadians don't want U.S. apps. They don't want U.S. news. They don't want things coming from America. If you follow the federal election, the Liberals used Donald Trump and Trump derangement syndrome to gain their votes over Pierre Poilievre to win the office of the Prime Minister. They knew, especially in cities like Toronto, where the vote counted, that all they had to do was make Donald Trump an issue, and they would easily win the election. In fact, they admitted that they'd planned this for months. They somehow convinced Canadians that 10 years of bad Liberal policy, useless spending, scandalous behavior, that somehow all of Canada's problems happened from just 3 months of Donald Trump being president. I can't believe that people were stupid enough to buy it. But the elbows up crowd has sunk Canada. And now you've got Mark Carney at the UN conferences last week and all over last weekend stating, hey, we got to do something about online hate. We got to do something about U.S. news. Different sources. If you look at what happened in Nepal, it's going to happen in Canada. Listen to Mark Carney's rhetoric. And this is just one clip. He was on the promotion trail all last weekend. So were many other Liberals speaking out. All they wanted to talk about was online hate. Take a look at this.
Large American online platforms have become seas of racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate in all its forms. And they're being used by criminals to harm our children. My government will act. And today we're announcing our plan to fight crime, to protect Canadians, and to build communities that are safe, secure, and strong. A plan to make Canada secure, to make Canada strong.
So, Mark Carney has no interest in making Canada strong at all. In fact, he just donated millions of dollars to Haiti for them to fight their crime, yet he allows criminals to run rampant in Canada. It has nothing to do with crime. If Mark Carney really cared about crime, he'd kick about 10 million undocumented migrants out of the country so that Canadians could get jobs, they could buy homes, inflation would go down. He's not interested in resolving any of those issues. He uses the word children to try and hype up this internet protection bill. In fact, they also jumped on the assassination of Charlie Kirk to try and come in and say, hey, we gotta slow down the hate online. We gotta pump the brakes here, folks. It's all to protect your children, right? The reason they bring in the children, the reason they talk about online protection for children is because it's the same as the pandemic. And I'm going to get to that. Stick with me here, where, hey, if you don't get on board, you're a ist and an ism. You're a racist. You're a misogynist. You're phobic. You notice Mark Carney was using all of those words in this clip? They're setting this up for the same threshold as the pandemic. You either get on board or you're a terrible human being. What's funny is that as Starmer was announcing digital ID, Mark Carney was there. He's not in Canada fixing our problems. He was there. Oh, smiles and shaking hands. Oh, good, you're bringing in digital ID. You're stopping people from anonymity. Hey, let's exchange, soccer jerseys and have fun. Let's all have a good laugh. Mark Carney loves the UK. He bankrupted them. Liz Truss warned Canadians at Donald Trump's inauguration, don't allow Mark Carney to be prime minister. He will destroy your country. He destroyed England. He's going to do the same thing to you. Yet, the naive people with Trump derangement syndrome voted him in spades, and now they're about to reap the benefits of what they sowed, which is exactly losing everything they have. Many people ask, well, what is digital ID? When you look at the pandemic, when you look at you're not allowed to go to movie theaters, you're not allowed to go to restaurants, you can't travel, you're not allowed to see family members, you're only allowed out at certain times of the day via places like Montreal. There's a curfew. You're not allowed to shop for Christmas gifts for your children because the coof hung out in certain parts of the stores. You could buy black winter boots, but not pink ones for your girls. Like, there was so many ridiculous restrictions. And it was all done for the purpose of complying with what the government wanted you to do. We're going to cut off your benefits, your privileges, if you don't agree with the government. The biggest problem here, folks, is that the government is showing you that they're not just here to pass policy anymore, they're here to run your lives. And people are allowing it to happen. You'll notice Starmer here using immigration to push this digital ID. And if you follow what's happening in Canada again, they started with the censorship, which Canada's bringing in. Now they're announcing digital ID. And what do they blame? The mass forms of immigration that they allowed into the country. It's their fault. And instead of saying, look, we're going to remove these people, we're going to get them out of here, we're going to do like Trump and bring in ICE or a version of ICE, and we're going to start removing people from the country that shouldn't be here. People on visas will have to go home. Nope. Starmer comes out and says, I know you're worried about the level of illegal migration into this country. Digital ID is another measure to make it tougher to work illegally here, making our borders more secure. Ours is a fair Britain built on change, not division. So they use their usual fart-huffing words to try and garner some form of support for what they're doing. Oh, you don't like immigration? Hey, we're challenging it, folks. We created the problem. We give the solution. Just get a digital ID. Just allow us more control over your lives, and this all goes away. They haven't said at any point they're going to deport anybody. They haven't said that they're going to stop bringing people in. It's just going to make it harder for people to work here. When you want to know about control, Starmer says it's mandatory for your right to work in the UK. So if you don't want to get on board with a digital ID, you can't get a job. And they're using it as a platform to say, oh, it's not that we're taking away your rights or that we're suppressing you or acting like a dictatorship, saying how it's going to work. We're not saying we can't give you the right to choose. It's that You're supporting illegal work through migrants, through illegal migrants, if you don't get a digital ID. You're a bad person. Listen to this nonsense.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID.
Well, does that sound familiar to anybody? Does anybody remember this? Does that sound familiar?
That's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train besides vaccinated people and put them at risk.
Oh, wait a minute. What else does that sound like? Hang on.
So unless people have a medical exception, they will not be able to board a plane or a train in Canada if they are unvaccinated.
Ah, I see. So this isn't about migrants. It's not about labor. It's not about jobs. It's not about your security. It's not about online hate and fighting crime. It's about control, folks, and we're giving it up. I had to pull last night's stream because it got very heated. In fact, a lot of people reported the stream because they didn't like how tense things got when I was trying to explain to people. We're giving up our rights here. We're giving up our ability to fight back. You know, we complain about things like taxes. We complain about, hey, look at the scandals the government's pushing. They're now pushing unfiltered control against their citizens. And if you didn't like what happened during the pandemic, you are definitely not going to like what's going to come from digital ID. And they're just rolling out the carpet now. So when you look at what happens in the UK, when you look at the words they're using, when you look at the actions, bring out censorship, overflow with migrants, then bring in digital ID, you have ultimate control. You can cut off their jobs. You can tell people, hey, you can't get a loan anymore for your car because we don't like what you've posted online. We don't like what you're saying. We don't like that you're against what we're doing. And we're following all of that on digital ID. You're not allowed to renew your mortgage. We're going to freeze your bank accounts. Does it all sound familiar? This will implement a social credit system just like has been discussed for over the last decade. A social credit system similar to China, where if you don't listen to the government, you don't get the benefits of life. You can't travel, you can't work, you can't buy food, you can't go on a break, you can't go on a holiday, you can't be with your family. You can't have a home to live in. I'm sure I mentioned all this already. I'm actually baffled that Canadians aren't more up in arms about what's happening here, that this goes beyond sending an email. This goes beyond calling your local MP. People should be lining up by the thousands outside of their MP's offices and refusing to leave until they get a definite response on taking away people's voices and their rights to express themselves. I do not agree with children being harassed online. I do not agree with hate coming towards them. I think something should be done to that extent to protect, but they already have safeguards in place. Parents are responsible for what their kids say and do online. Parents need to be more active. It's not the government's job to police. The government's job has and always should be to pass policies, and that is it. They don't have the right to tell you where you can go, what you can do, where you can work, who you can be around, where you can travel, where you can live, who you can talk to. Your mobility, your speech, it's all guaranteed by the Canadian Charter of Rights. In the United States, it's guaranteed by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. You cannot squander people's rights, or else you simply fail to have a democracy. You then live in a dictatorship. And I hate to break it to folks, when you look at the patterns, when you look at Mark Carney's behavior, it's already here. The question is, what are Canadians going to do about it? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If it's your first time here, I sure hope this video has earned your subscription. Hopefully before we're taken off the air and censored, make sure to hit that button, leave a thumbs up and a comment down below. Let us know what you guys think. Join me live twice a week now on the channel, Wednesdays and Fridays for Unhinged Fringe on Wednesdays, Friday Night Fringe on Fridays, where we discuss everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know coming up in the week ahead, as well as I'm joined by the beautiful Mrs. Fringe on Friday to listen to what you have to say outside of the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I look forward to chatting with you guys in those live streams. I most importantly look forward to hearing what you have to say this week, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, every Wednesday and Friday here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.